but not quite. This is hilarious. I'm just gonna sit here and do this the whole time. What is up, guys? Welcome back. So today is the much anticipated and far overdue tools video, the brushes and tools video that I've been promising you guys for ages. I'm not going to belabor it, but I was just waiting for some stuff to come back into stock. I use things that have been discontinued, so I wanted to find some dupes for those things, and I just kind of wanted to collect my thoughts. So I'm going to be doing a very straightforward face of makeup today to demonstrate each of these things in action, share with you why they're my favorites. There are some high-end brushes and some very inexpensive tools as well, so hopefully there will be something for everybody. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and jump in. All right, so let's start with complexion application tools in the intuitive order that you would expect. We have sponges and we have brushes. Now, sponges, I think that the whole thing started with the Beauty Blender, right? So this is the original Beauty Blender, and she is just, you know, exactly what you expect. None of these things are clean, so just, you know, bear with me. But I am definitely not some kind of purist or snob about how much I pay for my beauty sponges. I love the Beauty Blender, the original one. It does not expand quite as much in water as some of the other ones that I've tried. This is the one from Koki. It's a brand new one, but they had sent me one before, and I have used this one many times before, and it expands quite a lot, and it's the same shape as the Beauty Blender, but it's much, much squishier. And then very similar to the Beauty Blender is actually the Thrive one. It is just slightly squishier, but not quite. This is hilarious. I'm just gonna sit here and do this the whole time. And then the one that I've been using the most lately has been the Ecotools Bio Blender. And this is one that lasts 30 days, and then you're supposed to be able to literally, you know, compost it, bury it in the ground. It says plant me. But you can see it's already starting to break down. And that's because it is made out of materials that are biodegradable, and so it is going to be something that I do replace every 30 days probably, but they have stocked me up. So, you know, I've been known to keep these kinds of sponges on hand for a very, very long time. Pick your fighter as far as your squishy level and also how often you really want to be replacing one of these, but I don't think that you have to go and pay $20 for a beauty blender to have a beauty sponge that functions really well. And beauty sponges to me are about laying down product and not disturbing what you're putting them on top of. So you dab, dab, dab. I have seen people wipe. I have seen people use beauty blenders or beauty sponges without wetting them. I don't do either of those things. I really try not to wipe on my face, hardly ever, especially with a sponge. And then I really don't like to use a dry sponge. It just frustrates me. The whole idea being that when you do saturate this with water and then wring it out, it's not going to absorb as much product as a brush. And you know, I find that there is an instance for every kind of tool. I'm not a purely sponge user or a purely brush user. Lately, I've been more into sponges, but you guys know, like almost all of last year, I was mainly into brushes for complexion products. So I have tried lots and lots of different complexion brushes, and there are all these funky shapes, right? Sigma has sent me these like a long time ago, and you know, there's one that's like the curved shape of your jaw, and this one's supposed to, like, you know, get into your contours or whatever. As much as this one is past its prime and needs to be thrown out, I've had this for years and years and years, and I just need to replace it. This is my favorite complexion brush for wet product. So this is, the label's gone, but it's the It Cosmetics for Ulta brush, and it is called the Full Cover foundation brush, I want to say, and it is now in a more updated iteration, but it's the same brush, and it's a wonderful brush. I've just washed it so many times that the bristles are starting to give out. So hopefully they've improved that with the new version, but this did still last me for years. So I think that since I haven't used this one yet, we're just going to go ahead and go in with some Koki here. I'm going to use my Bare Minerals Liquid Mineral Foundation. You guys haven't seen me use this yet, I don't think. Maybe a little bit, maybe like in one video, but I already have the Glossier Future Dew on my face right now. I've just been really into putting down a layer of something kind of iridescent underneath my makeup and then going lighter with my actual pigment product lately, my complexion product. Sort of embracing my pigmentation, I guess. But yeah, see, a sponge is just supposed to be able to spread it out really evenly with no wiping motion. And if you were to start watercoloring, laying things on top of each other, it's not going to ostensibly, if you're dabbing and you're careful, disturb what's underneath it. And also, as you're applying different products in your routine, you can flip the sponge around and use the point, you know, obviously the shape matters, the point to get into, you know, the little spaces and things like that. And then you can use the butt of it to more like dispense product, you know, like blush and stuff like that in larger areas, and it's going to diffuse it a little bit better. So yeah, these two are the same shape. The Thrive one has one flat side on it, and then the Ecotools one has a large flat side and a short flat side. And then there is one by Real Techniques that I used for a while years ago, but I'm not as big of a fan of it just because it is so firm, but that's why a lot of people prefer it, is because it's super firm. Going in with a little bit of the Beauty Blender concealer, and I'll use the Beauty Blender to blend it. That firmness, I don't know. I kind of prefer the squishier sponges. I can't really put my finger on why. I think it's just because they're like more comfortable to use, but I'm not sure that it really makes a difference in terms of the actual application of the product. The one thing that I have tried that I think that they've really fallen out of fashion is, oh God, those silicone ones that are just like a clear piece of blobby, bubbly silicone. I'll stick a photo of one on the screen if you, for whatever reason, never were blessed with the consciousness of these things. They are awfully silly. They were so gimmicky. There was one called the Makeup Drop that got sent to me in PR at one point, and they are just so aggravating to use. And the whole purported appeal of them was that they pick up absolutely no product, or they soak up absolutely no product, and so this is less wasteful. I mean, you guys saw me on Project Pan. Try getting through any makeup purchase. I'm not really that concerned about like wasting a teeny tiny amount of product because my sponge soaked it up. Like, I'm never gonna really like work my way all the way through a product. And I don't think that I would notice the cost savings on that anyway. It's just so minuscule. And I also have never tried the ones that are like fuzzy on the outside. Those, you know, seem to be kind of cool, but they also seem to be kind of like, I don't know, they look grosser to me. And then there's like the Tati's Blendiful. I'm sorry, I am not about to stick something velour into something liquid. That just sounds gross. Like, it just sounds like a muddy teddy bear to me. It was not appealing to me at all whatsoever. Her appeal of her brand kind of fell off for me after that. I was like, what? You know, her makeup turns out great and a lot of people really liked it, but that did not appeal to me at all. Okay, so complexion situation is complete. Now I want to talk about the Ecotools interchangeables, because we've got a lot of different ways you can go here. I really expected to like this one, the Flawless Buffer, but I don't like it. It's really, really stiff at the top, and then it's got the duo fiber around the edges, and I just found it to be really odd. Maybe I just need to get used to it, but it just didn't do what I expected it to do. It was really difficult to use. But the whole thing with the interchangeables is that they come with one of these, one handle, and then they come with like a tin that you store all your little brushes in. And I have multiples of them because Ecotools sends me multiples of them, but the idea being that you don't have to own that, you just buy the brush. And all their stuff is vegan and cruelty free and, you know, bamboo handles and everything like that. So this one, not my favorite, but these three, these are my favorites. So let's start with this one. This is the Base Buffer. I fell in love with this one at first sight because it is just the right size for your contour and beautifully blending that into the skin, and it's rounded, which I love. So I'm going to go in with my Salt New York here, and you guys have seen me do this dozens of times, but it's just that perfect size, that perfect shape, picks up just the right amount of product. The curvedness of it makes it so that you have a lot of control over where you're putting that product and where it's blending to. Because a lot of times if you use too big of a brush for contour, it'll kind of end up everywhere, and contour is all about less is more and getting the illusion with as little product as possible, as far as I'm concerned, because, you know, nobody wants to turn their head and be exposed that they have a line in some place, you know, some part of their face that was meant to be an illusion, but now it just looks like a dirty line. But look at that, it's like that perfect little size. You can get everywhere you need to go. I can get it up here It's just such an easy brush to use, and Ecotools, very, very affordable brand. You can get them at Target, you can get them on Amazon, you can get them on the Ecotools website, you can get it at Ulta. I've never really found a reason to pay a whole lot for complexion brushes. A foundation brush is one thing, but when you can get this good of quality out of a brush that costs like $7, I think the sets are probably like somewhere in the ballpark. They're under $20. Why not? Like, why pay more for that? Okay, so for something like a cream bronzer, so you're not trying to get as detailed, you want to cover a little bit more space, but you want it to still be a compact brush that spreads product really evenly without disturbing things underneath it. Because it does have to be a little bit more dense in order to pick up a cream product and distribute it properly. So for that, I have, and you guys have seen me use this all the time and I get questions about it all the time. This is the Thrive Cosmetics original bronzer brush. And it was meant to be used with powder, and then they pulled the blush brush, they replaced the blush brush with a regular blush brush, which is great, but they kept the bronzer brush around, I wanna say, because people like me really appreciate it for cream products, and it's so good for cream products. Carissa, the CEO of Thrive, has put so much effort into developing these bristles that really behave like animal hair, but they're vegan. They're really amazing. So this is my preferred means of applying a cream blush, just because it picks up the right amount of product, it distributes it so evenly, but it's not teeny tiny. That other brush is great, but it's teeny tiny, and so it's really good for detail work. But if you're really, you know, not trying to spend all day on each step of your routine, you kind of want things that are the right size. And that is just the perfect right size to apply some bronzer really quickly. And this is the Salt New York in the shade Light. Super easy. And you know, cream products, some people just prefer to use their fingers. Those are free. You know, you don't necessarily have to use a tool. I am just a person who tends to lean pretty heavily on tools. I think that they really help. Okay, so we're gonna do something a little bit weird here because I do want to demonstrate some other brushes that are meant for powder, and so I'm going to do something that I wouldn't typically do, and I'm going to powder on this and apply some powder blush. I'm gonna try to. So I'm grabbing my e.l.f. Halo Glow setting powder. It's a very good, slightly illuminating setting powder that doesn't really add any coverage. And this is the brush that I'm using. This is the tapered powder brush. This is part of the Interchangeables collection, and it's been out of stock for ages because it is so much like the original. It's not the full powder brush. I don't know what this was called, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't exist anymore. It got retired, and thank goodness I have a contact at Ecotools because I just basically went to her and lamented the fact that I couldn't get this brush anymore because I use it all the time on camera and everybody asks me about it and I feel terrible. I'm like, well, you know, you can go try and hunt it down on eBay or something, but you know, when I bought it, it was $7.99 at Ulta or something. So this is the kind of new version of it. The only difference really is just that it's a little bit more flat in its profile, but the dispersion of the bristles is what I care about the most because it's very loose. So when I'm applying a powder product, I want to make sure that I have control over how much I'm putting on. And I definitely feel that way when it comes to putting on like blush and stuff like that, because I like to put on many different blushes. And when I do that, I want to put on a little at a time and layer them, not, you know, apply it and then kind of wonder how I'm going to move it around after the fact. So this is really, really good at kind of tapping the product on, and also at not picking up a bunch of the liquid product that's on your face as you're powdering. That's what's so great about the loose bristles, is that you can just kind of distribute that without gumming your brush up, because something that's a little bit more dense is going to almost act like a sponge. So when I am doing a full powder look, if I'm doing bronzer, I will use this. This is the all over powder brush from Thrive. This thing is incredible. It's like the most luxurious brush ever. And it is vegan. Like, these bristles are really unbelievable. This is so good for like stamping on bronzer and really blending it and like working in a way that really diffuses a product onto your face, but it almost works, like I said, kind of like a sponge because it's so dense and it's so round. And so like if I'm, you know, if I'm kind of dabbing on a bronzer or something like that, this is really, really good for spreading it out, but it's very, very different from something like this. So it kind of just depends on your preference. Like, do you like to have a ton of control over where you're putting it? Or do you like to just kind of watercolor and, you know, go like one layer at a time and be a little bit more patient with your product? And I have days where I want one and I have days where I want the other. It's not necessarily like an all the time preference thing. So that's why I have both in my collection. So that is what we are able to achieve as far as what we've got on my face so far. And I love that powder. I really do. It's like $6 or something, you know? God bless e.l.f. Although they did just come out with a Chipotle collab. I can't with that. I'm sorry. Okay, so we're going to move into blush now. I'm gonna go in with the Wayne Goss blush just because it's an easy thing to demo. And using this brush, do you see what I mean? How it just is so subtle at first? It does a really good job of kind of just putting on a little bit at a time. Whereas that Thrive brush, sometimes I want a whole lot at a time, but that one is always going to kind of lay on a lot of product at a time. And this is just very, it almost feels like you're just applying it with air. Airbrushing, if you will. And this allows me to then go in with other colors too, you know? I'm gonna go with the Rose Quartz here from Aether. Another beautiful pinky situation. And I can get really carried away with this brush because it does make things so easy. So I can like take this more pigmented shade of pink and still get like a really good like watercolor moment with it, even though it's a very pigmented, very bright pink. And it's just not going to get me into trouble as quickly as some other brushes. And I actually really like that they did that flat kind of shape. I don't know, it's like really nice to be able to do this, but also if I wanted to pick up the highlighter, I can do this, you know, and get multiple uses just out of that one shape. It's a very intuitive brush. Okay, so before we move on from complexion, I just wanted to show you guys a couple of like convenience brushes that I have too when, you know, I want just a little bit more control. So again, this is the new blush brush from Thrive and it's smaller. I don't use this for blush. I do like to use it for like highlighter and stuff. And this is actually their intended highlighter brush. This one's a little bit more dense and this one's a little bit more loose, but they are both smaller so you can have a little bit more control. Next, we're going to talk about eye brushes. And this is where I move from save to splurge mode. I realized, at least from the standpoint of my responsibility to give a good review, I needed to know that my brushes weren't the problem. If an eyeshadow didn't perform well, I needed to know it was either because my skills weren't that great or because the eyeshadow legitimately wasn't that good, but not because my brushes were failing me. And so I did invest in Wayne Goss eyeshadow brushes. And I got a full set of them when they first came out, I wanna say, or maybe it was on the first restock, but they haven't restocked in a long time, the actual full $215 set, but you can still get a lot of these individually. They are sold on Beautylish. So some of those are, and you see me use this one all the time, this is his O2 brush. Wow, it is so good for just like laying down a setting powder or something once you've primed your eyes, you know, getting even something in the crease that's very, very like, I don't know, low risk, something close to your skin tone that you don't really, you're not worried about it having some kind of line of demarcation. There are a few of these where, you know, you can kind of get a little bit more detail. These do need to be washed. They've got just a little bit of kind of gumminess on the ends of them, but I try not to wash them too often. He actually recommends wiping them off as much as possible, just because that's kind of what they're meant for. This one's a little bit flatter. It's really nice. So that was the 03, and then this is the 06, and this is the 05, which is just a pencil brush. And there was one more that I have duped with another brush. I cannot seem to locate it. It is probably like staring me right in the face, but regardless, the two that I don't really like from that collection and why I might recommend buying them individually, you don't need all of them, is just that this 01 brush, This is his like foundation brush. I have tried to use this. It's scratchy and it doesn't really spread evenly. It kind of makes streaks on the skin. And some people have told me that they make it work. I haven't been able to make it work, and it's too small for me to feel like I just get really impatient with it. This one's a pass for me. And then his 08 brush right here. This is just not angled. You know, I want an angled brush to put my eyeliner on with, and so this one just didn't really cut it for me. So the other ones that I would recommend would be the eyeliner smudge brush and the eyeliner fine brush from Thrive Cosmetics. So the smudge brush is the perfect shape for exactly what that is. It gets perfectly like right underneath your eye with eyeshadow, and it just distributes it really, really well. It's like flat, you know, and then it's like really stubby but round. And then this is my ride or die, guys. It's very similar to this MAC brush that I don't even know the number of anymore, but I've had this since I was 18 years old. And this is the, you know, cruelty-free version of that from MAC. And I mean, a lot of different brands make these kinds of brushes. I have one from Sigma, but this one happens to be my favorite. In fact, I have 2 of them. So this is what I always use. I always dampen, and that's what I apply my eyeliner with, and they have stood the test of time. That is something that goes a long way for eyeshadow brushes a lot of times, like a Sigma brush or something. They will work really well in the beginning, but they don't really stand the test of time. And as a brush, like an e.l.f. brush that's the same shape, as you use it over and over and over again, the bristles start to kind of splay out and you don't get that really, really nice line, that good point. And these have managed to like keep their point for years and years and years. So I think that that's kind of what you're paying for too. So let's go ahead and do some eyeshadow. Let's see, we have L'Artiste. Yeah, I think this is what I want to use today. This is one of the Emela Beauty palettes, and this is their really beautiful warm one. So I'm gonna start by just setting here. First we should rub the little creases out of there. But yeah, that's great for that 02 brush. It's really good for kind of just, you know, everything around your eye. And you can also use it for highlighter and stuff like that. And I'm not entirely sure that that's what all of these were meant for. I think that he does have one in this collection that is technically a lip brush, but I use it on my eyes. So this is the 03. This is the one I lean on the hardest. It's perfect for right in your crease. So crease shade, let's go with this really nice satin right here. These satins are my favorite formula in the Emela palettes because they have enough color payoff that you don't look like you're putting glitter in your crease, because that can kind of ruin the illusion. But the satin texture to them, the little bit of shimmer that they do have, it makes it so that it spreads really, really easily. These brushes are a shape that kind of requires a little bit of getting used to though, because they're not the same shape as like this old Sigma E40, right? That's what we're used to seeing from every single brand, is this kind of like, you know, regular triangular dome-ended thing. And then these are just kind of oval shaped on the whole. And so they're a little longer and they have less of a blunt tip on them. And so you do kind of get, I mean, I feel like you get more control, but it does take a second to kind of get used to like which angle you're gonna put them at. I also love how, I don't know, elegant, they're just all black. In the interest of using the right brushes here, I am going to also use that shade underneath my eye with the eyeliner smudge brush from Thrive. And you can see it just really gives you so much control, so much precision. I'm going to, again, go in with that 02, that 03, and we're gonna go with the kind of cooler toned brown right here. Use that to give a little bit of drama in the crease here. And then I will take something like this flat brush, and I can dip that into, I don't know, pretty much anything that's lighter, like that light shade, that really, really pale one right here, and just use that to blow out underneath without getting too much product everywhere, because that brown is pretty contrasty against my skin. This is also a great brush for getting right up here, your brow bone, but it's also got enough fluffiness to it that it'll blend. It's not just packing down product. There are brushes that kind of behave like your finger. Work those abs. So these are examples of that. So this is the e.l.f. eyeshadow C brush and the eye shading brush E55 from Sigma. And you see they're like large versions of that eyeliner smudge brush. See? So they're kind of stubby, C-shaped kind of, but they're bigger. And if you aren't someone who wants to dip your finger into an eyeshadow and put it on your eyelid, these behave like they're about the same size as my fingertip, you know? And they behave kind of like that because they're so dense and then they're round. So I am going to, I guess, use one of those. It's kind of funny because I was talking about how elegant those Wayne Goss brushes are, but like the e.l.f. brushes are also all black. So, you know, you don't always have to spend a whole lot of money, but I'm not sure that this is going to pick up the amount of product that I want it to. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta use your fingers, you know? So this is, again, the Artiste. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier. That's the name of this palette. And these foils are so satisfying, but I have yet to figure out how to get them to really stay for any amount of time. So I'm going to also just go underneath my eye with that, because I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. I just realized how much I like that shade. And what's cool is like you can kind of apply most of the shadow with your finger, and then you can go in with something smaller like a pencil brush, and get a little bit more detail work. So then I'll take this kind of burgundy shade, go over what I did in the crease. I'm taking a little bit of the Lily Lolo powder concealer, which reminds me very much of the old like MAC pressed powder. It's great for cleaning up boo-boos like that. Increasing coverage after you've already got all your powder on. And pencil brushes are also fantastic for going into your like inner corner and stuff. My eyes are so tiny and close set that I can't often get my finger right in there. So I will typically go in with like a highlight or something. So I'm going to use that Wayne Goss highlight right there. A very fiery Aries look, isn't it? All right, and typically I would be like, oh, I'll be right back. I'm not gonna show you my eyeliner. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but today I think that it's important to because I wanna show you guys this brush in action. So I will either stick it in my mouth or spray it with a finishing spray of some kind. This is the Lila B Aglow Face Mist, and dip it into almost always a Thrive eyeshadow because they become waterproof when you wet them. Well, actually they're waterproof anyway, but they become really, really beautiful and like, you know, like a liquid product. All right, so I did actually end up picking up the Forget the Filler Plumping Lip Gloss from Lawless. I just haven't used it on camera yet. I'll just do that real quick. It's basically a scented version of the Glossier lip gloss that also happens to have like a plumping component to it, and I think it's great. All right, let's move you guys out and we will recap. Okay, so to recap, sponges I don't really have a huge preference on, but I think the squishier the better. So, you know, I like the Kokie one. I really like the Ecotools one. Brushes, I prefer the It Cosmetics for Ulta full cover foundation brush. I'm a really big fan of the Interchangeables collection from Ecotools. This for contour specifically. And these, I didn't mention this one. This one's a great blush brush as well. This is the angled brush, but I have to admit that the tapered powder brush has really stolen my heart. I love that this exists right now. And for cream blush, I do prefer the original bronzer brush from Thrive Cosmetics. I have my little convenience guys right here for a little bit more control. These are also from Thrive. And for my eyeshadow brushes, I think the ones that really matter from Wayne Goss, because you can get a pencil brush from anywhere, you can get one of those kind of stubby brushes from anywhere, like the eyeliner smudge brush, but I would highly recommend these, the 02, the 03, and the 06. And there is actually, I think, an even bigger version of this one as well that I have put somewhere in the move. But more the fluffy ones that are for blending. As far as placement is concerned, like really, you know what I mean, placing things as opposed to diffusing them, you can go for a less expensive brush than these. But blending is where a high-end brush really shines. My Thrive Ride or Dies are the eyeliner smudge and the eyeliner fine, which I now need to go and wash. Wow, that looks really, really crazy. And that, I think, is about it. I never thought that there would actually be enough content about the tools that I use to make an entire video, but you guys asked for it so much and you were right. There's actually a lot here, so I'm glad that I can point to this video now when people ask. So thank you for requesting this, and I'm glad that I finally got it all out in the open. So if you did find this valuable, do give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave those down below. I will do my best to answer any and all. If this is my first video that you are watching and you enjoyed it, make sure that you subscribe before you leave. Hit the little button down below, hit the little bell so you know when I upload. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.